It's now 12:30. Actually, 12, just turned 12:31. I think we have quite a number of users here. Logging in just to hear you and what you have to say about your new book that just come out. I think the release date was what, Monday in the UK,
Yes,
correct?
yes, it was actually Saturday, I think, the 3rd of January, but Monday is as good as a Saturday.
Yeah. Yeah, so everybody, as you join us here, I want to welcome you. My name is Michael Charles from the PM Leadership Coach organization, and I have with me today Susan Madsen. She's a leadership coach also for project managers, and it's so great to be connected with her. Susan and I connected on an event that I was doing last year, the Project Manager Success Summit. She had a great session that she did for us, and I'm really excited to be interviewing her today on her new book called the Project Manager Success Summit. And I'm sorry, the power of project leadership, the 7 keys to helping you transform from a project manager to a project leader. And I think Susan has some great information that she's going to offer here. And even if you don't do anything after this webinar here today, you will at least gain some insights and some actionable steps that you can take to really raise your level of performance as a project leader and a project manager. And I think Susan can do that. Not only has she written this book, but she also has another book out, correct, Susan? And it's been out for a while.
Yes, yes. My first book was published actually by an American publisher back in 2012, the Project Management Coaching Workbook, and it's traveled the world. This year I went all the way, no, this year, 2014, I went all the way to Shanghai because someone in Beijing had read my book and invited me out. So that was, I think, the highlight of what that book did for me so far.
Wow, wow. And this one, and I think this is just an information on another level, and I think Susan has just, again, taken it up a notch to really help her readers and people who are affiliated and are reading her content to help them really lead better and be better as not just a manager of processes and tools, but really as a leader of people. And Susan, so let me ask you, and what really prompted you to write this book, The Power of Project Leadership?
Yeah, I think that's a good question, and maybe we're talking about it, so why not show it? I love the cover as well. It's much more snazzy than my first book, I must say, and I think it looks nice and powerful. But I didn't come up with a cover. I'm very lucky that a good designer did. What prompted me? Well, there's two answers really. The first answer is that the publisher asked me to write it, for which I was very flattered. But the real answer, of course, was that it was a book I needed to write, and that I believe there is a big need for a book like that in the market. You probably know as well as me, and many other listeners or watchers will know that the majority of project managers out there, they go on technical courses to
Mm.
learn project management, the tools, the techniques, and I'm talking here about the PMP. And in the UK we have Prince 2, which is more popular than PMP, but it's still the process side of it. It's not the leadership aspect. And PMI's Pulse report actually says that according to 80% of high-performing organizations, they believe that leadership now is the most important skill for managing complex projects, not technical skill. And that is the
Mm.
PMI itself that says that. I mean, the Pulse reports, for those who don't know them, are great, great reports. So I think we're getting to a stage now where hopefully the industry is beginning to recognize that the technical side is not enough. We need more of the leadership aspects in project management, and that's why the book, because that's what the book focuses on. Yeah, so that's my long answer.
Absolutely, and yeah, I mean, it's interesting. If you look at all the research, it actually says leadership is one of the key skills right now that project managers are lacking in order for them to be successful. So, great, great. So, then this now begs the question, because I'm sure a lot of our listeners and viewers today are asking, Okay, fine. We've been hearing this project manager. I'm a project manager. Well, now we're talking about moving from being a project manager to a project leader. What's the difference between the two, really?
So I define it in one way, and other people might define it in a different way. To my mind, the traditional project manager is someone who's very good with events and tasks and processes. They're very good at being given a job from, let's say, an executive sponsor or whoever, saying, "This is what I would like you to deliver. How long will it take? How many people do you need?" And the project manager goes away within those confines and does a very rational, logical job of coming up with a schedule and delivering that. There's nothing wrong with that. I'm not going to fault that. We need that. But what we're saying here is there is a bigger piece, there is an extra piece, an expanded piece surrounding that, which is much more the leadership. So what is that? That is around not just the rational side, but the people-related side. It is being more inspiring to the team. It is pulling people with you, and it is having a bigger vision for where the project is headed and where the team is headed. And that is a completely different angle than just telling people, right, I have a plan, you do that, you do this. No, the leadership side is trying to understand the individual. Why is each person on my team?
Mm.
What can they contribute? How can I make them become high performing? What can I do for them as well? So it's a very different aspect, and it's also an aspect not just where we engage people better, but also where we are more focused on the business outcomes, so delivering value. No, it's not just about delivering what your boss tells you to or what the sponsor tells you. It is having that leadership vision of, will this add value for my client? Um, in a strategic sense as well, not just in the short-term tactical sense. So in that way, you see, it is a bigger pie.
Absolutely, absolutely. And people really have to get in the mindset of I'm a project manager, but really my job is really to deliver results through people and using tools and processes. But the focus shouldn't just be on the tools and the processes, which, of course, I'd go as far as saying it's really not their fault most of the time because most of their training is really focused around the processes and the tools that they should be using to project manage when most of the time they don't spend too much time on the people aspect.
Yes. And you know what I find interesting is that a lot of project managers have some kind of technical background. If you're
Yeah,
in the building industry, if you're in technology, if you're in manufacturing or many other industries, it's really quite technical, in some way technical.
yeah,
And most of us don't go to university to learn about human behavior. They do something else in life, right? Project
yeah.
managers go to university to learn about, something which can be calculated. And many project managers come from a technical background. So as you're saying, it's not that surprising actually. Throughout our upbringing and schooling, we've been taught to be rational and logical. We haven't been taught to be touchy-feely and trying to understand what someone else is feeling or thinking. We're being a bit bold here and generalizing, but it's just to get the message come across, I think.
Exactly. I absolutely agree with you. And so in your book, you talk about dealing and having a culture where we have to do more with less, or getting more for less, and really the implications that it has for project managers. Can you really share some insights from your research and finding in this area?
Yes, so you're right. As part of the beginning of the book, I'm talking about the fact that well, there's more for less, as you're saying, because really we've just come out of a global economic crisis, and they happen every so often, right? Every 10 years, every 20 years, whatever. The economy really takes a jolt, and people shed workers, and we're left with people who are having to do two jobs or whatever. And funding for projects is being cut back during those times. And when the recession is over, so some people say the recession is over now. Well, we can debate that. What happens is we don't just go back to abundance. We go back to a more lean organization where monies are being counted in a different way. So what does that mean for project managers? It means that we're having to up our game. Every time there is what you could call an economic crisis, we have to work more effectively and become more competitive. That doesn't just mean working faster, right? I think that's very much a management view, to work faster. It really means that we need to continuously improve and innovate. Innovation is not really innovation is quite hard. We can innovate as project managers at many different levels. We can innovate around how we do things um, from a process point of view. We can also innovate around the product, what we develop. But the other aspect here is be more efficient, or maybe a funny word to use with people, but to optimize how we use human potential. You
Mhm.
probably know as well as I do that there are surveys out there that state that the majority of the workforce today is disengaged.
Oh, yes.
And it's shocking, and it is such a shame. People work long hours, but it doesn't mean that they are using their full potential.
Exactly.
So I think that in order to actually deliver more for less and become more competitive and deliver more value for our clients and make sure that projects don't fail, etc., we have to access people in a different way, which is what we can do partly with better leadership. So that's really how that ties into the book. Does that make sense?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And we really have to understand for us to be able to do more with less, usually we have less tools and less things to less money to deal and get more of the tools that we need. So now all that we're left with is the people that we have, and sometimes we don't have as many people. So we really have to learn to develop our leadership skills, to influence people, to get more things done with less. And that's why your book is so important, and it's just come at such a critical time for people, for project managers to really understand what skills and what things they need to work on in order for them to become successful. It's great.
Mm, thank you.
And you also talk about belief system, and I'm big on belief system because I think we all do what we do because of the things that we believe, and the things that we believe affects our attitude, our behavior, and ultimately the results that we get. So, what does, again, from a project management perspective, what does that have to do with it?
Mm. Well, you just said it, and you just said it so well. Our beliefs affect our behaviors, that affect our actions, and the results we get or don't get. So something I put a lot of emphasis on in the book is, well, look at your results, because people can say, no, 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 I have great beliefs, I'm fine, and we'll come back to what those beliefs are in a moment. But the proof is in the pudding, as we say here in England. The proof is, well, look at your results. Are you getting great engaged customer stakeholders? Are you delivering projects that add value? Are you having your team sing and dance because they're happy working there? That's the results we need to look at.
Yeah,
And if we're not getting those results, then maybe we should start looking at changing some of our behaviors. So why are these behaviors important? Because a lot of people are saying to themselves inside their heads, consciously or subconsciously, oh, I that leadership thing, I'm not sure that's for me. I'm not old enough. I'm not young enough. I could never do that. I could never be inspiring. So we have beliefs about what we're good at and what we're not good at. We have beliefs about what we can and cannot do.
mm,
And if we have some of those beliefs, and especially if we're not aware of them, which I believe mostly we're not, then it's going to hold us back. And you can read as many books as you want and attend as many webinars as you want, but if your belief system is telling you that you're not worthy of being a project leader, no, I couldn't go out there and inspire a team to follow, then it's not going to happen. That's why it's the first part of the book we only talk about beliefs.
yeah, yeah, and I think it's a great thing that you did that because unless we change our beliefs, the change in behaviors we have is only temporary, and eventually it's just for sure. People will say, "Oh, you are just trying to do something for sure," because deep down what you believe is is contradictory to the behaviors and the actions that you're taking, and so your results a lot of the time may even backfire.
Yes. And the other added benefit when people start to understand their own beliefs and what drives them and what they have been taught
Hmm.
is that that creates self-awareness,
Yeah.
right? So it creates self-awareness and it will help the individual to step up into leadership. But one more thing, it also creates awareness around other people's belief systems.
Hmm.
Oh my God, if I have beliefs like that are holding me back, what my little voices in my head is saying, I wonder what's going on for other people. And that's when we begin as leaders to shift the focus from us to someone else, which is so crucial. Leadership is not about me, it is really about we. And we go from this what's in it for me mentality to what's in it for them.
Yeah.
And understanding the beliefs is so crucial to that again, because if you want to create a high performing team, you've got to understand what's going on for the individual. So there's another reason why understanding beliefs and getting insight into that is important.
Absolutely. Now, again, I'm going to ask you a question here. What do you say to people who say, "Well, I don't have time to do all of this. It's, we have a very tight deadline, we have a very tight budget. We don't really have time to spend on trying to understand what people believe and trying to understand people on an individual level." What would you say to them?
So key number 7 is actually addressing that very topic, because key number 7 is to work with intent.
Mm.
As maybe we should just say that the book has 7 keys. Because to my mind, if you don't have time, then your focus is wrong and you're not working with proper intent. So key number 7, and we may be jumping a bit here, but key number 7 is all about looking at, well, how can you focus on that which is most important?
Mm.
How can you stop multitasking? How can you stop procrastinating? And optimize how you spend your time so that you do free up some hours to have those one-on-one conversations and connect better with people.
Yeah.
Um, to those people who don't have the time, um, it's quite likely that they're making some of the most classic mistakes that project managers make. You know, that they're firefighting too much. They're focusing too much on the urgent and not the important, which leads us into some of the 3 most common mistakes that I see project managers make.
Yeah, go ahead, cover that.
So I do a lot of coaching and training, and I do a lot of, it comes across what people are struggling with. And a lot of project managers who are not getting the results that they want, um, they're making some of these classic mistakes about, well, we talked about the first mistake a little earlier. They focus on tasks rather than people.
Hmm.
And that is a mistake because people are not rational. So if you only have this task-oriented, rational, logical outlook, well, you are assigned to this task, why don't you get it done type mentality, then that you're just not going to get the best out of your project team and your stakeholders. Mistake number 2 is related to the fact that a lot of people are focused on the most urgent aspects right now, as opposed to the more important long-term proactive aspects. That is where firefighting comes in. You
Mm.
know, how many people on this webinar start their day by checking their email?
I would guess most of them.
Probably. And I'm not saying that I don't do that, you know. It is just we have to recognize that that is already a reactive activity. What happens if someone emails you something? Oh, straight away we're going to attend to it. And
Yeah.
that's oftentimes how we spend the day. Project managers firefight. But that is just not how we get the right results. If that's how we spend our day, then there will never be enough time to build relationships, to sit down, have those coffee chats.
Coffee shop conversation as well, right? I mean, take your people out for coffee and have a little conversation.
So it's about understanding what drives each person to be on top of the urgent. What is it that
Yeah.
makes us want to do something all the time and feel that if we're going to have a coffee shop to have a chat with someone to build a relationship, that's not real work. It's so wrong, you know. We have to change that mentality into people matter. It's people who deliver projects. It's not processes.
Yeah.
So to those people, I help them map out how they spend their time, and help them understand why they're drawn to the urgent, and how they can begin to change that around, and maybe even delegate something, because if they can delegate some of the lower level admin stuff, it
Yeah.
will, in theory at least, free them up to do some of the more proactive activities.
Yeah, actually, yesterday I was listening to one of my mentors teach a lesson on delegation, and he said it's either you do it, delegate it, or it's not important for you to do at all. Because if it's important, it's either you do it or somebody else got to do it. So if you don't want to delegate it and you can't do it, you got to figure out where it belongs. So that, yeah, that's great. That's
Yeah,
great.
I want to say a word on delegation there, because a lot of people, and I have been in that category, they don't have anyone to delegate to. They're the only project manager and they're just expected to get on with it. I had that belief. That was a belief I held for many years. Project management is tough. I worked in financial services. That's even tougher. It's
Hmm.
stressful. You have to deal with it all. There's firefighting. Don't complain. Just get on with it. If that is your belief, then I don't think you're gonna take a leadership mindset with that. And I don't believe it's the best way to manage a project. And it may lead to burnout, as it almost did for me.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know what people can do if they have no one to delegate to? They can look around and think again, think creatively. It doesn't mean that it doesn't mean, well, what does delegation mean? Maybe you have a team leader who can do some planning on his or her work stream. Maybe you can delegate in that way. Maybe you can get between you, if there are several projects in the company, maybe you can put a case together, a business case together, for why you all need a shared access to a project administrator. Why not think smarter? Why just say, I have no one to delegate to? Well, do something about it. Empower yourself. So that's what I encourage people to do.
Yeah, absolutely. So, folks, if you're on the line, if you're too busy to take the time to know and learn about your people, you're probably too busy. Because, again, as project leaders, and which Susan is going to tell you a little bit more about how to get into that mindset and how to move from being that project manager into the project leader, you will need to focus more on your people than you do sitting behind your computer all day trying to update and create project schedules and documents and while you're ignoring your people. So I hope that's not you on the line. Uh, so you talk about also the leadership matrix in your book. And you also, I think, relate that to and how one can utilize it to become a better project leader. Could you cover that for our listeners and viewers?
Yes. So the project leadership matrix is related to what we just talked about the point before. But can I just check you hear me all right? Because I have an echo on my line now.
If you're on the line and you can hear us, can you please say yes in the chat box? Should be to your right hand side. Now we have some viewers watching. Like some feedback just to make sure that you can hear us. Can you hear me correctly, Susan?
I can hear you.
Yeah, I can hear you
It's just
perfectly
that
well.
I have an echo.
On my end, it's you coming out fine.
Okay, I'll just
It
continue.
just okay.
So what I encourage people to do in order to understand the project leadership matrix is to just draw it. Okay, people can hear, that's fine.
All right, perfect. Thank you, everybody. I appreciate that. And as we continue, let me just say this: if you have any questions about what Susan is talking about, and you have any questions, feel free to type them in the chat box, and if it's a question, put question in capital letters in front of it, so I can go back to it, and we'll get those addressed for you. Thank you very much. Go ahead, Susan.
Okay, so they do write that there's an echo on me.
I'm not sure. All of a sudden, you have the echo.
They're saying you should turn off your speaker.
Yeah, keyboard volume. Turn down the volume on your keyboard. Some people can hear echo, some people can hear well. We just want to create the best experience for you, folks. So that's give us a minute. How is this? Is this better, Susan?
Let's see.
Let's see.
There's
Folks,
still,
are you hearing the echo when I speak or when Susan speak?
yeah,
Or both?
there's still an echo for me.
There's still an echo for me. On my side, I have no echo though. I'm not sure why. Somebody said there was an echo. Yes, yes. So I'm guessing there's an echo on both ends when either you or I are speaking. Let's
Have
see
you
what
tried to
we
turn
can.
down your
Try to turn
speaker,
down
Mike?
your speaker, Mike. How is this, everyone?
Michael, why don't you
There's
try
still
to
an
put
echo
yourself
on
on
your
mute?
end as I speak right now. Can you hear an echo when I speak, Susan?
Um, Now it's a lot lower. But maybe if you mute yourself, I'll. Can you mute yourself?
Let me switch over to my other audio system just to make sure that if that was the issue, it's resolved. Susan, can you hear me well?
Yes.
Do we still have an echo?
No, I don't think so. It's gone.
All right,
Right.
perfect. Are we good, everyone? Yes. Perfect. Thank you, Dennis.
So let me pick up on a question I saw in the chat box. Someone is saying, what is the third mistake? I only mentioned the two top mistakes project managers make. So let me just first address that question. What's the third mistake? The third mistake
Okay.
that I see most project managers make is that they believe that they have to know it all and do it all. Why is that a problem? Well, it's a problem because when you believe as a project manager you have to know it all and do it all, then it puts a huge amount of pressure on your shoulders. But it also means that you're not accessing your team. Because if you see yourself as this superhero who's got to do it all and know it all, you are very likely to start to micromanage people.
Yeah.
And you're very likely to begin to not ask other people about their opinions because you feel that you ought to know it all. But truth is, in this complex world, we just can't know it all and do it all personally. We've got to access the team.
Exactly. Exactly. Thank you very much for addressing that.
So are people saying that they hear us okay now?
Based on the feedback I'm getting, it's a yes. People are hearing us okay. If you
Okay,
still
good.
hearing an echo, please let me know. We just want to make sure you have the. Okay, I have yes, yes. Somebody's saying there's still an echo. I'm using my headset now to prevent having an echo, but for some reason, some people are still saying they have an echo.
Okay, because I definitely don't hear it anymore. So let me continue, and people
Yes.
can write in what happens for them. So we're
Yes.
talking now about the project leadership matrix. And if you're sitting with pen and paper, then draw it in front of you, then it would be easier for me to talk you through. So the matrix has, on the right-hand side, it has a people focus, whether you're leading through people and whether you have more of the leadership aspect. And on the left-hand side, we have more of the task-oriented mindset, whether you're leading through tasks and being more rational and logical. And towards the top of the matrix, we have whether we are focused on the strategic outlook of the project, And towards the bottom of the matrix, we have whether we are being not proactive but reactive and focused on the short-term results. And so I hope people can see that kind of clearly. To the right, we have people focused. To the left, we have task focused. To the top, we have proactive strategy. At the bottom, we have reactive tactical solution. So what I do with people, and when I do master classes and course on this, I'll say, where do you operate most of the time? In which quadrant? Because it creates 4 different quadrants. I can tell you that normal project management, what the PMP teaches, that sits in the top left-hand corner. It is proactive because we are planning, we are doing risk management. That's proactive, actually. But it is task-oriented. The problem is that a lot of people, and this relates to the 3 mistakes we just talked about, they spend their time in the bottom left-hand part of the quadrant in the matrix. This is where we firefight. It's where we have a reactive outlook. We're focused on the short-term, immediate results, and we have a task-oriented mindset. That is a place where people will not get results if they operate there. Mm. So where do people think that they should operate in order to be ideally a project manager? Sometimes I have people say all over the matrix or in the middle of the matrix. And of course, we have to be everywhere in the matrix depending on the situation. But the most optimal state, what we should aim for, is to be right at the top, which is proactive, with a mix between task and people. I don't want people here, the listeners and viewers, to misunderstand my message. I'm not saying we should throw away task management. Not for a second. We need that. I'm saying we must add on the leadership aspect. Because if people are only inspirational, visionary, leading with vision and great with people, well, who's doing all the operational stuff? Who's doing the planning? Then we have these high sky, visionary people who are not delivering. What I'm saying is we need the balance between the both. We need to manage tasks and lead people. And that's why we need to be sitting in between task and people, in between management and leadership, but right at the top, being proactive, being focused on the strategic outlook of the project.
Exactly. And really the idea is really, Susanne, to find a balance between the two and not do too much of inspiration, and then you have, like you said, people come by along and nothing gets done. Perfect. Okay, so as I said earlier, if you have questions, feel free to type them in the chat box and put question in capital letters in front of them so I can track them down and list them for you so we can I can have Susan address them for you at the end when we take user questions. So please feel free to type them in your chat box and I'll get that for you. So Susan, now let's talk about the 7 keys that you mentioned in the book, and if you can list them at least and give us a quick summary of what it means, that would be great.
Yes, great. So the first key, and I won't go too much in depth. I have a chapter on each key in the book, but the first key is to be authentic. Being authentic means that we have a clear sense of what is right and what is wrong, and then we act upon that. It means that we act with integrity, and it means that there is congruence between what we say and what we do and what we feel and what we think. So if you feel and think that something is not right, but you're still doing it, then there is a noise on the line, right? Then you are not acting with integrity and you're not being authentic.
Absolutely.
Now, this is so important because, to my mind, project leadership, to be an authentic project leader, we have to add value to the client. That's what it's all about. If you deliver a perfect project, but your client isn't using it, to my mind, that's a failure. So it's very important to tune in to that servant leadership and serving your clients. That's also part of being authentic. Not servicing yourself, not doing this just because it benefits you. So I have a whole lot about that, and it's the first key, because if you implement lots of strategies but you're not being authentic, you will never, to my mind, be a real project leader.
Perfect.
Key number 2 is to lead with vision. And that really means that we partner with the client. I see so many project managers feeling inferior to the client or the executive sponsor. They see themselves being down here, where the sponsor or the client is up here. And that means that they don't really dare to ask into why are we doing this project, and is this right, and how will this help you generate better results in the future in your business. No, what we need to get up on par and see ourselves as true equal partners, because when we do that, then we can lead with vision, because we take joint responsibility for the business case, for generating results, and we're not just washing our hands and saying, oh, we didn't deliver benefit, that's the sponsors, that's the executive sponsor's problem. That's not a leadership mindset. So I'm pushing the boat here, right? But this is one of the differences between a project manager and a project leader. So that key number 2 is about helping people, enable them to take on that bigger, broader, visionary role in conjunction with the client or the sponsor, or whoever that person is. The third key is about improving and innovating. And this comes back to the point we talked about earlier on, where we said that really the world is becoming more and more competitive. We have to optimize how we work. So improving and innovating becomes a must if we want to be leaders. We're not going to do things today just because we did them yesterday. That's not a good argument. So again, we have to improve and innovate, not just us, not just the project leader. Let's not put all the weight on our shoulders. Do it with the team. So this key helps the individual reader to understand, how can I ask questions of my team that help us do things better? And it's not just reviewing processes, it's also reviewing how we work. It's also reviewing the product we are delivering. Asking what-if questions is a very important question here. What if we could beat the competition? What if we could win the prize of being the most, the best team, or whatever it is? What-if questions really open up. So spending quite a lot of time on that in key number 3. Key number 4 is about empowering the team. And this is probably one of the more, well, they're all central, but this is a classic key. Sometimes people think project leadership is only about empowering your team, but as we're seeing, there are many other aspects. So this is about how we can understand what makes each person tick. What are the strengths of each team member so that we can utilize them? How do we go about creating that best collaborative environment? So crucial. Again, it's not about me, it's about we. Key number 5 is called getting close to your stakeholders. And for the majority of that key, we discuss how to build trust. Because if you want to get the best from your stakeholders and deliver the best outcomes of your project, which should be everyone's goal, then we've got to get the best and be close to our stakeholders. And we do that by building trust. So I'm spending a lot of time looking at what does that mean? How can we build trust? Clear communication is an important aspect of that. But if you're untrustworthy and still have clear communication, guess what? It will not be enough to make you trustworthy. But clear communication can help that. But it's about honesty. Again, it's about really being honest and not over-promising. I know a lot of people want to over-promise. Yes, I will do that tomorrow, or yes, we can do that. And, we want to serve. But if we can't deliver on our promises, it hampers trust.
Exactly.
And competence is another big part of building trust. So I'm going through the different elements of trust. Key number 6 is called establish a solid foundation. And this is actually about project management. Shock, I said it. Because if you're a really good project leader again, but you throw away the management, something is missing. So I've dedicated one key to the most powerful project management techniques, right? It's the risk management, it's planning and initiating your project properly, the business case, those aspects which are more, I think, the management side. It has to be mentioned and it has to be emphasized. The last key I talked about a little bit before is about working with intent. That's really about how you spend your time, how you focus, avoid multitasking, avoid all too much firefighting, really homing in on that which is most important and giving people a framework to understand how they can free themselves up to focus on the strategy building the relationships, not exclusively, but having the right balance.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And it's interesting you mentioned something here, and I'm actually doing a presentation at the local PMI chapter next week, and it's really on that exact topic, right? How do you build trust, and how do you really leverage trust to achieve results? And most people don't think that they actually can build and leverage trust. They think it's something you either have or you don't have. If you don't have it, folks, you can actually work at building trust with people. It's not magic. There's a process, and I'm so glad you mentioned at least some of the key aspect of it, which is really communication and the competence and the integrity character of it. And I'm going to cover some of those at that presentation, but I'm so glad you mentioned that. And that's one of the more reasons that I said earlier at the beginning of this interview that this is one of the greatest and best book that there is out there when you're talking about being a project leader, not just a manager, but a leader. And you made the difference clear for us at the beginning. It's not, and then again, when you talked about the leadership metrics, right, where we're not just focused. There you go.
Can you switch to my screen?
Yes, hold on a sec.
It's actually taken from my book, but you can read it out for people. Or
the screen is up right now. Can you guys see this? The project leadership trust. It's on the screen, right? Competence, be capable, connection, be empathetic, communication, be clear, and honesty, be reliable. And this is great. And it teaches you and give you actionable steps. And also one of the things that you do in this book, Susan, that I think is great is you share with the readers questions to help them think and take the time to think, from your perspective, from the things that you've done, and yourself really understand, is this really working for me? And the question is really taking the readers and help them search for the answers from within themselves, as opposed to just you telling them what to do. Now they have to go back and search within themselves for answers. And I think that's so great.
well, that's why we're coaches, isn't it? Because
Yeah,
I'm not in this industry to just write 7 keys on how you can transform from project manager to project leader. I don't just want to give people information. I want to make sure that it relates to people, that they can implement it. And that's why,
exactly.
as you're saying in the book, I have questions. In each chapter, I have roadblocks that will help people overcome the most common roadblocks. I also have 25 people from around the world, some names that people will recognize, who I've interviewed for the book. So they have little paragraphs in there so it's not just my views. I have a view, but what do other people think? Other people who I look up to as project leaders as well. So yes, I've tried to compile a lot of other things, and the emphasis on behaviors and values and attitudes, as we talked about before. Beliefs was what we said. That all helps so people understand, well, what can I do with this? How can I really transform?
Exactly, exactly. And this all the more reason for the people on the line to really, really, go out and get this book, because it's the book that you need to help you understand what it requires and what it takes for you to become the project leader. So we have a few minutes left. Let's go cover a couple more questions, and then for our viewers here, we can address. I'm sorry, my headset fell. For our viewers here, we can address a couple of their questions. And again, as I said, type in your questions in the chat box and put in questions, capital letters, in front of it. That way I can spot them very quickly and make sure that Susan can see them as well. Now, we know, as you said, right, having these 7 keys is great. But now, as I said, you put in questions to help them apply it. Now, what are some of the challenges that they might face? Because again, if we tell them what the challenges are and perhaps how to deal with them, they can better apply these. But what are some of the challenges that readers and our listeners here today might face in implementing these 7 keys?
I think there's two sets of two different types of challenges. One challenge is actually doing some of the stuff. It can be very challenging to begin to understand the business context better. That's one of the aspects of leadership. Begin to understand the environment and what will really add value to the customer. That can be challenging.
Yeah.
It can also be challenging to go out more there and as I said, ask the questions, because this is much of leadership is about asking better questions. Ask people what's going on for them. Ask your team, what would make them more motivated to go to work. Ask for feedback from your clients. What do you feel we could do better on the project? What risks and issues have we not yet addressed? So that people find challenging to actually ask questions, to expose themselves more. We
Yeah.
have to be okay to be more vulnerable. And I think confidence is really a big thing here. A lot of people struggle a little bit with being confident enough to stand out and stand up and voice concerns. We all have concerns about projects, but we don't always do something about it because we don't know how, or we don't feel it's our job, or whatever.
Hmm.
So that's challenging. So they're more the specifics about implementing strategies. But at the other level, what do people find challenging once they start to change? I think that is to sustain change, because I don't know what your experience is, but to my mind, there aren't that many great role models out there
Hmm.
who do leadership fantastic in addition to doing management fantastically well.
Exactly.
There are some very efficient managers out there, but I'm not sure about inspiring leaders. And so it can be a real challenge for people to maintain that momentum when there is a lot of pressure from the organization just to get short-term results. Um, yeah, they're some of the most common challenges.
Great. Great. I mean, I can think of some, and you mentioned some of them in the beginning, but really, it's, as you said, the main focus really is, for me, and again, as I think of it, is the time to apply these. And people are saying, well, I really don't have the time to do this. And I think there's one question I saw here already in terms of doing this. But what's one thing our listeners can do today, and just one thing maybe from the book that you want to share with them that they can go out and do today to at least move them closer and to help them with that transformation process to becoming a project leader?
Yeah, yeah. So getting the book, of course, is the one thing people can do. The book will help people, of course, gain the knowledge. So what do we do practically? Okay, you've read the book, you've done it. So what? Um, the next step, I would say, over and above anything else, engage a mentor or a coach, because that's someone who can help be that sounding board to you. That's someone who can help you to discuss and get a perspective on the challenges that you get up against. It's someone who can help you maintain the momentum. There's so many reasons why a coach or a mentor or a buddy, it can be a really good buddy who is as committed to growth as you are,
Exactly.
but must be someone who's holding you accountable. So I know you have a lot of experience in this, Michael. So I'm sure we will be reiterating the same point here.
Exactly. I mean, the other day I was on a coaching session with someone, and he said, "Well, um, you've been asking me a lot of questions, and we've met for a while, but tell me, what has helped you grow the most?" And bar none, it's really the people that have mentored me, that have coached me throughout the years. And those are the people that have made a huge difference in my life because, as you said, right, they help you get another perspective. They help you get see your blind spot,
Yeah.
right? And they become a thinking partner for you and with you. I mean, the things that you may not have clarity on when you think about them, they're the things that, they're the ones that help you get to that level, help you see that blind spot that you're not seeing by yourself or on your own. So absolutely, this is the, again, it could be a friend, like Susan said. It could be a close friend, but who's as committed as you to growing? Because if you got somebody who doesn't really care much about becoming a better leader and is not growing, then I doubted that you'll be growing. And as a matter of fact, I mean, I'm sure you've heard this before, right? You are really the the sum of all of your closest five friends. So take a
Mm.
look at your closest five friends and the people that you talk to most often. However they are, you are the average of that group. So just think about it that way. So get a coach, get somebody who's also growing with you. And last questions for me, Susan. And really, I know we talk a lot about the book and everything else, but it's coming. We're coming to the end of our conversation together before I get questions. But where can listeners learn more about your book and really purchase the book? Really?
So I have set up a website for the book, which is powerofprojectleadership.com. So powerofprojectleadership.com in one word is the link for the book. And let me see if I still have. Um, I should just share the link here to the promotion that I'm running just this week only, because the promotion is so good I can't keep running it because it's my publishers that are allowing me to do it. Basically, if people go and follow that link, they will find links to ordering the book on Amazon. It's available from all major bookstores. If people before the end of this week, because the book has already been out since the 3rd, so we're running this promotion for 1 week only. If you go and order the book and send me a copy of the receipt, and all the details are on that promotion page, we will give you for free as a bonus. We'll give you a free copy of my first book. It's a really
Wow.
big book, which has sold really
Wow.
well. The project management coaching workbook. It will be an electronic version, so we're not going to send it out in the post. It will be an electronic version coming from my first publisher. And the second bonus is the electronic version of the new book. So in the US, this book is not released until the 26th of January. But if you pre-order it and send me the receipt for your pre-ordering, we will still send you the electronic version of this book right now, so you can start reading.
This is great. I mean, you're not only giving them the electronic copy, you give them they're buying the hard copy, you're giving them the electronic copy, but you also giving them a copy of your first book. This
Yeah, and
is
you know
great.
the beauty of this is that this is a different publisher, and
Mm,
it's an American is my first publisher who's agreeing, and throughout this week we've been sending because lots of people have taken me up on this offer because it's already been out on Twitter,
mhm.
and people are sending me the receipts, and it's my first publisher who is a different publisher who's agreeing to do it. I think it's really lovely. I think it's really lovely that they're doing it just to promote my second book, which is not with them.
Exactly, exactly. Wow, this is great. And I mean, uh, what else could we ask for? And folks, if you do this and you buy the book, not only Susan will send you the electronic version of her previous book, her first book, but I will give you access to 3 special recording sessions from the Project Manager Success Summit, an event that I hosted last year. And Susan actually was one of the speakers. Yeah, Susan was one of the speakers, and we had a lovely, fantastic conversation again about project leadership and how to be a project leader, sorry, and really how to be more effective. And so not only you'll get the book, you'll get an electronic version of it, you'll get an electronic version of her first book, and then you'll get those 3 recording of and those audio recording they have handout as well. So you're coming out with a lot of resources to help you grow. Really, it's what 2015 more into a project leader. So I'm encouraging you right now. If you want to grow, if you want to become a project leader, if you want to achieve and get better results than you've gotten thus far, I'm highly encouraging you to go to this page, right? And I think I'm I'm sending the link right now in the chat box. Susan also has done that. So if you look in the chat box, you should have that link for you to not only learn more information, you'll learn also about the promos. But once you purchase the book, you send Susan a copy of her receipt she'll also share that with me for me to be able to send you access to these three recordings with the handout. So, folks, this is it. I mean, I don't know what else we could ask for, but anyway, so let me see if we have some questions here, Susan. You have another 5 minutes or so to go.
Yeah, yeah, and I see already there is a question here from Steve, right? He
Yes.
said, some people want to jump right in and start becoming a leader. Are the keys in the book set up like steps, e.g., start with one and build from there? Um, the 7 keys, I have done them 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 7 because I think it's a natural progression. It's not steps. Maybe I'll help you flick through here so you can see that they're actually, it's not just text, text, text. It's quite a snazzy book with lots of nice diagrams. It doesn't matter what page I turn to here, there's stuff
Hmm.
in there. So Steve, they're not steps. I feel it's a natural way I've written the keys, but one doesn't build on top of the other. Being authentic, I think, is very fundamental, but they all blend in.
Perfect, perfect. And I think we have another question from Francisco. And Francisco is saying, Susan, how do you approach these conversation? And I believe, really, do you have certain questions prepared in order to have an objective conversation? I think he's referring to when we talked about how you learn more about your people. And I think in the process, we said, hey, take some time to leave your desk, leave your office, go meet your people, go find out,
Mm.
right? And so the question he's asking is, do you have prepared questions? How do you go about having these kind of conversations?
Yeah, and there's lots of questions in the book and lots of practical things that people can take away. So I don't know if he means with the team or with stakeholders, but stakeholder conversations are very, very important. Some of the questions people can ask when they first engage a stakeholder is um, just opening up the conversation about how they feel about the project, if they've done similar projects before. What, if you're new in the organization, ask them what they feel that you can learn, how you can avoid making mistakes that other people have made before
Mm,
you. Ask them what they worry about. Ask them how they, oh, this is an important one. Ask your stakeholders how they would want you to communicate with them. Ask them under what circumstances they would like you to escalate to them. Ask them if they like the weekly status report or if they would like something else. There's a whole raft of questions we can ask that actually really tap into what is important to that other person. And with team
exactly.
members, not stakeholders, with team members, we can ask questions such as, now tell me what you like the most about your job. Tell me what you like the least about your job. Because if you ask people what motivates them, they may not have an idea. They may just say money. So we can ask in a different way, ask into
Yeah,
this in a different way. And no, we cannot bend over backwards and give people all the stuff they want, and if they want, but we can adapt a little and begin the process of playing to people's strengths.
exactly. Exactly. And if I can share this quick story, and again, folks, if you have questions, type questions, uppercase in front of the questions, and then type in your question, and I will make sure that Susan address that for you. We have just about 1 minute, so if you have that question, that would be great. But Susan, there's this company I used to do consulting work for. When it came time for me to leave, they were asking me, um, how much money do you need to stay? And they kept throwing numbers at me, thinking that the money was going to get me to stay. But in my mind, I'm thinking they just don't understand it. They don't get it. Sometimes it's really not the money. And I think you mentioned this earlier. It's the engagement. How engaged do people feel when working with you on your team? um, do they feel valuable? Do they feel that they have input? And when they voice a concern, do you actually listen to them? Yeah, you may listen to them, but do you, that doesn't mean you have to take action on it, but do you really do it? And so they were shocked that everything they had sent to me, the numbers all over the place, and I still said no. It's because I didn't see myself growing in that place. And again, I think you talk about this in your book, Susan, right? The six human needs. I think you talk
Yes.
about that as well. Yeah, and for me, it was those last two things that was driving me at the time: contribution and growth. And so Susan talks about this in her book. So I encourage you, get the book. You're gonna get all of this information, and then you once you know this information, and as Susan asks questions, coaching questions to help you apply those. So those will help you. So Susan, we're coming to the end of our conversation. Do you have any comments, questions, any last things you want to leave with our listeners and viewers today?
Uh, yes, because I'm aware that I haven't answered Juan's question here.
Okay.
He's asking, could a project manager and a project leader be the same person? Absolutely. I'm not talking about a project manager. I'm not talking about a project having a leader and a manager. The way I look at this is that a project leader also has the project manager's responsibilities within them. And
Yes.
really, I think we should all aspire to become more than project managers. We should aspire to become leaders. And
Yes.
I think Rob has asked a question. Someone is saying here, Mutu well, I don't know if I pronounced it right, unless we know the expectation, we cannot fulfill it. So Rob is saying, did you answer the question, how do you normally manage the time to have these conversations with your people? I'm not sure I understand that question right, but the more you delegate of the low-level detail, the less you firefight and are proactive, the more time you can deliberately set aside, preferably early in the day, to do that which is important, including building relationships. So what I would like to finish this webinar with is encourage everyone to write down what are the most important tasks and activities I must do. Get them done early in the day. As Brian Tracy says, eat that frog.
Yeah.
Um, and don't wait until the end of the day to do these important things. And the other stuff, the emails, that they will sort themselves out. But you must make sure you find time to build relationships with the most important people.
Yeah, and really, Susan, one key thing you said, right? It's if you're not building those relationships, you basically don't have any way of influencing them, right? Influence comes through relationships, and without that relationship, you can't do it. And if you sit behind a computer all day doing, project schedules and responding to emails, you're not really building relationships. So,
Yeah.
go ahead.
No, it comes back to that same comment. It's people who deliver projects. It's not processes.
Exactly, exactly. So I thank you, Susan, for coming on and sharing your knowledge with us here. And really, it's all in your book. So if people want to learn more, they need to really get more in depth into the content of our conversation today. I highly encourage them to go to your website for the book, which is thepowerofprojectleadership.com, and they can get a whole lot of information there. And as Susan said, if you purchase the book, and in the US it's not going to be available until the 28th, but if you purchase it and you send her your receipt, she'll send you an electronic version of that book, so you'll have it almost immediately, I'll say. But go ahead and do that, and you'll also get a copy of her first book. I mean, that's a no-brainer. You get two for the price of one. So I highly encourage you folks to go on her website, thepowerofprojectleadership.com. I'm sorry, not it's powerofprojectleadership.com. I'm sorry, Susan. Thank you. Go there, get more information, and I guarantee you won't regret it. I mean, I've had conversation with Susan before. She was an interviewee at the Project Manager Success Summit last year, and she's agreed to come back this year again. So thank you, Susan, for that.
Thank you for inviting me.
No, it's a pleasure. I love having this conversation. Not only I'm learning, but also we can bring more people and add value to them. So thank you, everyone. We were just about to go, but I just want to let everybody say thank you. Type in your thank yous. We appreciate you being on the line. And if you have comments, questions, feel free to reach out to me. My information is on my website, pmleadershipcoach.com. And Susan also, once you get to her book's website, you should be able to get all of her information as well. You should be able to reach her. So again, it's a no-brainer. Get the book, become a better project leader, lead your people well, and get better results. So that's really all I can say right now. So everyone, Suzanne, thank you so much once again for coming. And this is Michael Charles, your host from the PM Leadership Coach organization. So I really look forward to having you on future webinars, Susan, and all of you listeners. I look forward to having you on future webinars. So thank you so much, Susan. Thank you, everybody. Have a great one.
Great, thanks.
All right, take care. Bye-bye.